Let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on something you, me, literally everyone interacts with: the multi-billion-dollar subscription economy. You've probably noticed that practically every service out there suddenly wants you on a recurring monthly plan, right? Well, today, we are going to dive deep into the hidden mechanics and honestly, the brilliant, slightly sneaky logic behind auto-renewal contracts. Let's start with a question that's probably going to hit a little too close to home. Have you ever paid for a subscription you don't actually use? I mean, we've all been there. You sign up for a free trial just to binge one specific show, or maybe use a software tool for a weekend project. And you tell yourself, oh, I'll definitely cancel this before they charge me. And then, well, life happens. The deadline completely slips your mind, and boom, that auto-renewal charge hits your credit card. It's incredibly frustrating, but I promise you, you're not the only one. In fact, you're in very good company. A recent Forbes survey actually found that nearly 50% of consumers cite plain old forgetfulness as the primary reason they're currently paying for unused subscriptions. Think about that. Half of us. So this isn't just some minor glitch in human behavior. It's a massive, highly predictable pattern. And as we're going to see, businesses are extremely aware of this pattern. Actually, they design their entire financial models around it. Just look at the mobile app market to put this into perspective. A tiny, tiny fraction. We're talking only 3.9% of apps worldwide use a subscription model. Yet that tiny sliver commands nearly 55% of total app revenue. No way, right? The subscription model is wildly lucrative. But to really understand why, we have to rethink the whole concept of the free trial. Section 1, the free trial illusion, more than just a sample. Okay, so we tend to think of free trials as this generous, risk-free way to test drive a service. In economics, they call this consumer learning, the idea that trials exist purely so you can figure out a product's true value. But think about a music streaming app. You know within a day or two if you like the library. So why are 30-day or 60-day trials the standard practice? What exactly is the rest of that month for? Section 2, the cost of forgetting, memory as a battleground. Well, that extra time isn't necessarily for you to evaluate the product, it's actually a testing ground for your memory. If we map this out across a typical contract timeline, you sign up in stages 0 and 1. But look really closely at stage 2, trial and monitoring. If you decide on day 3 that you don't want the service, you have to actively remember to perform a cancellation action before stage 3 hits. And keeping that future deadline in your head, that carries a heavy cognitive burden. Researchers from Emory University use this dense academic concept to describe it. They call it rational inattention. Basically, it means consumers aren't naive. We know we need to cancel. But setting up mental reminders, digging through settings menus, and tracking deadlines, it takes real, measurable cognitive effort. Processing that information isn't free. It literally costs us mental energy. And here's the real trap. Memory decays over the trial period. This is based on the psychology of prospective memory. If I tell you to cancel something tomorrow, you'll probably remember. It's top of mind. But managing a deadline 60 days away, that's cognitively exhausting. I mean, let's be real, most of us can barely remember what we had for breakfast yesterday, let alone a cancellation task 2 months from now. Over time, your attention just naturally decays. Section 3, harvesting inattentive revenue, profiting from decay. So once you realize that consumer memory degrades over a 30-day period, you start to see how tech companies strategically exploit this to harvest what's called inattentive revenue. This is profit derived purely from consumer forgetfulness rather than the actual value of the product. By extending the trial length, a firm systematically increases the number of people who fall victim to this attention tax. Ultimately, you aren't paying because you love the app. You're paying because the cognitive cost of remembering to cancel was just too high. And real-world data absolutely backs this up. Take a look at these conversion rates for mobile apps from RevenueCat. Notice how the conversions climb as the trial period gets longer? A trial spanning 17 to 32 days has a noticeably higher conversion rate than a short 4-day trial. This data proves that longer trials genuinely drive higher conversions, precisely because they allow more time for that inattention to set in. Section 4, the balancing act, finding optimal length. Now, this raises a pretty obvious question. If longer trials create more inattentive revenue, why don't companies just offer a 1-year free trial and guarantee absolutely everyone forgets? Well, it turns out we consumers are pretty smart. Researchers call the counterforce IR slack. It's essentially a deterrent effect. When you see a trial that feels unnecessarily long, like say a 6-month free trial for a basic flashlight app, your brain subconsciously recognizes the cognitive hassle of monitoring a distant deadline, and that actually scares you away from signing up in the first place. So the firm has to balance trapping the forgetful without terrifying the cautious.
And there's another fascinating layer to this balancing act. On one hand, firms want to stretch trials to gain that inattentive revenue. On the other hand, they have to worry about something called constraint architecture. As one product growth expert puts it, if you offer too much free value for too long, you build a comfortable room that the user never wants to leave. If the trial solves the core problem perfectly, they never feel the urge to upgrade. So these firms are walking a very delicate tightrope.
Section 5. Price and the Trial Trap. Strategic Complements. So, how does the math of this balancing act dictate your final price tag? Well, trial length and renewal price are what economists call strategic complements. Research shows that firms using very long trials to exploit our inattention will deliberately set higher post-trial renewal prices. Think about it. If their entire strategy relies on you forgetting, they want to extract the maximum possible value from you once that trap snaps shut. Think of that niche software that offers a full month free, but then auto-renews at a massive $100 a month. That's not an accident. That's the strategy. We can see this super clearly when we compare totally free trials to paid trials. A 100% free 30-day trial relies heavily on massive reach and subsequent forgetfulness. But have you ever seen an offer that charges like $1 for the first 3 months? That tiny upfront fee acts as a screening device. This is the dilution principle in action. By charging even a tiny amount upfront, the firm filters out the casual users and selects for highly committed users. And because they have higher quality users, they rely a lot less on exploiting inattentive revenue, and therefore use slightly different pricing models.
Section 6. The click-to-cancel effect. Regulatory impacts.
Now, all the psychological maneuvering has recently caught the eye of regulators. They view these obscure, maze-like cancellation processes as dark patterns. The FTC and states like California are currently pushing click-to-cancel laws, basically mandating that canceling a subscription must be exactly as simple as signing up for it. And the impacts here are profound. If you make it effortless to cancel, you completely destroy the firm's inattentive revenue stream. So what happens next? Models predict that firms will respond by forcing shorter trial periods, and they might even raise prices on their loyal, attentive subscribers to recover that lost revenue. It's a really complex economic trade-off. Which brings us to this profound quote from Milan Kundera. The struggle of man against power is the struggle of memory against forgetting. The Emory University paper actually uses this exact quote. And honestly, it perfectly encapsulates this entire phenomenon. We tend to think of the digital economy purely in terms of code and algorithms, but really, it's a constant, quiet battle for our attention and our memory. So I'm going to leave you with a final question to chew on. Are you paying the attention tax right now? Are there automatic renewals quietly draining your account simply because the cognitive cost of remembering to cancel was too high? Use what you learned in today's explainer. Seriously, go check your bank statements today. Don't let your memory decay become someone else's profit margin. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll catch you on the next one.